You're listening to the DownShift podcast, taking you trackside for all things motorsport. We're four mates from Melbourne breaking down the races, the drama, and everything in between, all with a little banter and a lot of passion. If you love motorsport and cars as much as we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're always on the grid with us. And if you really want to join the team, leave us a 5-star review and support the show through Patreon for exclusive content and bonus perks. So it's lights out, drop the clutch, and let's get racing. Hello and welcome to the DownShift podcast, where we'll be reviewing the Thrifty Sydney 500. But before we get started, how are we, boys?
Very good.
Yeah, don't all jump into one. It's going well.
Had a good weekend.
I'm pleased
How
you
was
got
your
that.
weekend, Christian?
Oh, look, I enjoyed a great Mexican meal with some friends where the conversation was dominated by ideas around a certain podcast, and we brought everyone else at the table.
Yeah. I remember you practicing the word thrifty many times so you could pronounce it correctly tonight. Well done.
Don't worry, I'm sure to get it wrong at some stage. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, well done so far. It was a good start.
Yeah. Off to a cracker. Pronounce the first Supercars event properly. That's a win.
Downhill from
It
here.
could only get worse from here.
Supercars.
Oh, no. But also then on Sunday, went to tree surfing. So with the kids down at Arthur's Seat, shooting through the trees on those bungee cable type things. So that was absolutely awesome.
It is good fun. I've done that with the kids before. It was good.
Yeah.
So you didn't watch the Supercars on Sunday then? You were too busy swinging through the trees?
I finished watching the Supercars on Sunday night at about 10 past 12.
Right. Lucky
Nickname
it
him
was a good
Tarzan.
race.
All right, well, shall we get into it? So obviously we had the 3 races over the weekend, a couple of different qualifying formats, 100-kilometre night race, a 200-kilometre night race, and the 200-kilometre day race. So seeing all the new cars for the first time. As I jump in, sort of the first race, qualifying for it, I was just going to say absolutely chaotic. You know, this is the new format with all 24 cars for 10 minutes, with the slowest 14 being eliminated, and then they just had the top 10 for 8 minutes. It was over before it had started.
Chaotic's probably a good word to use to sum that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very short time limit, so which is a bit of a shame, actually, I think, as a fan, because you want to see maybe a bit more action than 10 minutes of the full field on there, but it also sort of means that teams really only have, I don't know, a couple of goes to get a good lap in a lot of traffic. So it certainly could spice things up a bit, but I think the qualifying order was pretty much as expected, though, wasn't it, in the end?
Well, I mean, for the start
The first
of the
race,
season,
yeah. Yeah, well, I think you have to give V8 Supercars a pat on the back because watching the 3 races on the weekend, quality racing, race 2 and 3, absolute phenomenal finishes for both those races. So I don't think that they would have expected to have possibly the parity amongst the top races like that, to have the 3 races like that. It was an absolute cracking round to watch for the V8s, and having the third race finish the way it did as well in the weather conditions was just something extra to watch. It was fantastic.
It was good. And Sydney always produces good racing. Like, you've got a lot of tyre degradation, so, you know, people are on offset pit strategy. Some will just put rears on at a pit stop. Others will do all 4 tyres throughout the weekend because you've only got a limited number of tyres to use. So, yeah, it always makes for great racing. And then it was great to see Cam Waters do well. Like, he was a solid contender last year, but the Red Bulls were just too strong. But, geez, he's got off to an absolute flyer this year so far.
That car was a jet. On
Absolute
the weekend.
jet.
It was almost
Absolute
uncatchable.
jet. Yep. And I have not been many better finishes than that side draft down the straight on the last lap in race 2. That was phenomenal.
Well,
Look,
the commentators, as they started up, things said, "Oh, well, it was so close." And all of a sudden, he pulled up next to it, got in front, and they went, "Oh my God!" Like, they jumped out of their seats. They were that excited by that move.
I just don't remember seeing a side draft having that much effect. Not only for you to gain speed, but also to seemingly pull Feeney back, like to really pull aero off his wing. It was like, that was fascinating, actually.
It was some of the best driving you've seen for quite a while to actually do that. And then, just the car control in the third race there in the wet weather, just a cracking all-round weekend.
What I like to see was the fact that the stewards didn't get involved or didn't, for race 2 at the end, it could have been very much taken to the stewards after the race where they've just gone, no, we're going to just let this be just solid racing and let the drama unfold, let them have the tussle. And, when you sort of look at it, you saw that thinking that Cam thought that he had to give up the position and then sort of swapped around and between Feeney and Brown. But, then, as you're saying, taking that draft and just coming to the line, it was 0.03 seconds. So, I mean, just nail-biting.
When Waters tapped Feeney, he did sort of try and give back track position like that. But the fact that the stewards had called it before the race had finished and said, no, it's a racing incident, keep going, means they could all attack flat out in that last lap. And it was just no hold bars. So if they'd said it was going to be an incident afterwards, that probably would have taken some shine off that last lap. But the fact that they said, no, it's open slather, let's go for it, meant the three of them could just absolutely go door to door for it. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Now, the only driver that I thought might have complained about that whole scenario was probably Will Brown because, Will was in there as well. Cam bumped Broc, wanted to let Broc back through, but didn't want to let Will Brown through either. So at one point, it was about turn 8 or 9, I think he sort of balked Will Brown to let Feeney through, and I think Will was pretty annoyed by it. So it got a bit messy, but like you say, it was just really good to see drivers sorted out on track. Like it was fair racing. Cam knew he did the wrong thing. He tried to let Broc back through. He did. They had a cracking battle. It was what we talked about last episode. It's like, let's let drivers sort out a bit more of their racing on track and not take it all to the stewards room every.
And when you watched it, it really wasn't anything untoward. It was racing instant. Like Cam went a little bit deep, touched him, slid him out, backed off so he could actually get the track position back again. It wasn't like it was a deliberate shunt off the track. It was literally got too far up the inside, had to brake and just missed it. So I don't think it was anything more than a racing incident, and they worked it out on the track and kept going. I thought it was just the way to go.
Yeah. No, credit to Cam for giving Broc back the position, but he had no other option really because it would have gone to the stewards. He would have got a massive penalty. He put himself back into a potentially winning position and then ended up winning. So it was really good for him, not so great for Broc and Will. But I think Broc and Will, the Red Bull team knew how fast that Ford was when they rolled it out, like in qualifying, even the race pace. Like in the third race, Cam just pulled away. Like he just dominated the whole weekend. It was a really strong performance. Compared to his teammate, Thomas Randall as well, who did okay. I think he finished 5th in quali and he finished 6th in the race, one of them, but he wasn't quite up to Cam's standard.
If you watch race 1, that car was so strong. He had like a 16-second gap at one stage, and to be pulling away with a 16-second gap, and then the next 2 or 3 were also Mustangs after it as well. But it just goes to show how well built that car was for the weekend. And the irony is they were doing like a sponsor circuits, I think the next day on it, and the engine died.
Yeah, exactly. So it shows you how hard Cam was driving it to win.
I think he almost drove the doors off the thing. So yeah,
it was interesting to see. It's sort of reversed from last year where like Cam had good qualifying pace, but they just didn't seem to have the tyre on the car for longer stints. It would just fall away, and the Red Bulls were strong in their race setups. And this week, the Red Bull team commented that not only was that Ford fast in quali, it was fast in the race as well. So everyone's got some catching up to do based on what Cam Waters did on the weekend. But he'd have to be championship favourite already. Like, look at him go.
Let's come down to it. It is just round 1, so let's just back it up. He's 60 points clear at the minute, but
all 3 poles, all 3 wins, absolute domination.
Ron, great start.
He's called it.
Put him up there. Give him the title. Let's just call it.
Yep, Hubby's whole season already.
Sorry, guys, the rest of the season's off. Cam, we'll just give him a trophy now. We'll walk away. It's all
It'll
fine.
be close. They could have lucked into a good setup, but it was a very strong performance.
No, it was.
Yeah, and look, I think race 1 it was just a nice clean race, and it was actually interesting to see that drivers were getting used to the track again. There was a lot of going out wide. I almost say race 1 was dusty because the amount of off track action, lifting up the dust, that people were getting used to it. But then coming into race 2, we saw some really good tussles, some really good driving. We even saw where with Richie Stanaway getting caught on fire, everyone's going in for double stacking for the pit changes. So people quickly doing a splash and dash, not using the entire fuel turn as well. So it was good.
Yeah, good close racing, and everyone was pushing pretty hard. Lost it in the top 10 shootout when he was trying to put his car up near the front, which is good to see. Everyone's pushing really hard to try and catch.
Well, he was on track for pole until he put it out wide and slid it.
It was a great lap. He was up by a good margin at the time. Yeah, but I've seen cars come off there before. It's a tricky little switchback where the weight shifts in the car quite a lot when you're really pushing, because you come off a curb, change direction, hit another curb, and you have to run out wide on the last two corners there are really like an off-camber sort of corner where you run out. So the rear of the car gets quite light, but they're easy to do there, I think.
Well, he completely owned it too. And they talked to him afterwards. He goes, I was pushing. He goes, just overcooked it, lost it. He goes, my fault. He didn't try and blame anything else. He just goes, no, that was 100%.
What else could you do? It was pretty obvious.
No,
the whole country watched him do it.
He owned it. He didn't go, I think there was a slight problem with the clutch, or there was nothing else to try to blame. He goes, it was me. Yep.
Yeah, good on him. Yeah, good on him. Still raced well, but yeah.
Mind you, I don't think I'd want to be Aaron Love going out for qualifying, just coming out of pit lane and taking out his teammate with a bit of a swerve.
Yeah, not
James
a great start
Courtney
to the season.
Poor James Courtney. I mean, he's called this as being his last season. Or next thing is his teammate takes a swerve, knocks out his right rear, and he's having to walk back to the pits.
That's a disaster, that one.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is all teams are obviously going to practice taking their fuel pumps off, obviously, because one team sort of missed out on the drive off.
Yeah, that was Cam Hill. And did you see, as he's got to the end of pit lane, the Red Bull team have come out and taken it off for them. He take it off, put it down. There you go.
The team manager too did not look happy when he walked back into the garage either. He was kind of fuming about that.
No, exactly.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, and then talking about the rain at the end, Lachlan, I mean, it's a shame when we talk about tyres, it's a shame we didn't get to see the wets in action because, the rain was looming. Talking about it, the 10 laps to go, the rain just started to come in and it was in the last 3 laps. So it didn't make any sense whatsoever to go into the pits to go and change tyres. But
any advantage they would have got from those tyres would have been more than eaten up in the time to actually get into the pits and do it. But it was interesting because they said when it comes off the mountains, they said there's no guarantee that the rain hits the track. So sometimes the clouds will be that distance there and then they'll get a kilometre from the track and then they'll just turn left or right and just disappear. So even though it looks like you've got this rain bank coming towards you, they said there's a 50 or 60% chance that it'll never hit the track anyway. So, but watching some of the on-track commentary guys were going, look, now when the rain first starts, and he was with the ground going, it'll go from the light, you'll see the track go dark. He goes, and then you'll start to see it glisten up. And he go, but then as they were driving around the track, the guy goes, well, you can see it going dark now. And literally a lap later, he's like, and there's the slick part. And it was just the track changed inside of 2 laps. Yeah. It was gone from drivable to ice skates. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah. Maybe if you were like me, I saw the clouds off in the distance, and if there's one thing that makes racing interesting, it's a bit of a wet track and slick tyres. So I was doing the rain dance in the lounge room, hoping that rain would get there. So because it just adds, so much to the race.
I was waiting for rain. Don't worry about that.
No incidents.
No, they drove really well given those conditions. Like,
they were
Cam could take it easy out front.
8 seconds a lap slower or something on the slicks in the wet.
Yeah,
8 to 12 seconds a lap they went backwards, and it was quite interesting watching. I think it was like second, third, and fourth, whatever it was. But they were actually having a battle and watching them try and pull the cars up when they were trying to slightly dive under a corner. You talk about going off the track slightly, Christian. There were some guys out about 3 meters past the track coming back in again. So they were certainly using all of the track at the limits from that point in time.
Yeah, really trying to find the wet line, as they call it, all the grips around the outside, not on the inside of turn. So they were searching everywhere for it, but they're all experienced at it, and it was just great driving, really good driving.
Mm. All right, so then we see as that wraps up the weekend, obviously a super start for Cam Waters. Huppy's already called it. He's taking the championship for the year, so we may as well just stop watching and go and do something else.
I'm concerned that a 60-point lead counts as a championship win. I didn't think it was that easy to do that, but okay, that's fine.
And so yeah, as you're saying, so that puts Cam Waters ahead at 315 points, followed by Will, then Chaz, Brock, and then Matt Payne. For the teams, this now puts Monster Racing at the top of the table. So for Tickford were just over the moon in regards to that. That's a great result, and that's due to Cam bringing that home. But Red Bull sitting only just 26 points behind them. And you see that in regards to having both Will and Brock bringing that in together. So 2 solid results from them. So you can see that the pressure is definitely going to be on Thomas Randall to be able to back Cam up as well, and bring that home for the team to be able to bring those points up.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's good to see that Penrite Racing, Grove did well. Matt Payne had really solid races. He was strong last year and obviously big talent. And Dick Johnson Racing, V-Power, Kostecki did really well. Like, he seems to have settled in quite well. They interviewed him and George Commons, his engineer, who came across from Erebus with him. And they said they had some challenges, like getting their head around the car and set up on the Friday. But they made pretty good gains and did pretty well in the last 2 races. So, yeah, they could be a real good team to watch this year as well.
I agree. I mean, yeah, Kostecki came in 4th in that third run there as well. So, I mean, it was a strong showing from him.
Absolutely. Brand new team, new engineer for him, new group, different car, and to roll out and be able to deliver that on in a competitive field, wet track and everything, like, it was a really good performance. So he'd have to be encouraged by that.
Okay. So with that, probably take our first break for the podcast, and we'll come back in just a moment and we'll talk about a bit more of the performance of the cars, what we thought of the new tyres. We've talked a little bit about who's looking strong, but also the livery. So seeing what we're thinking of the teams so far. So back in just a few moments. And welcome back to the Downshift as we're talking about the first round of the V8 Supercars, the Thrifty Sydney 500. So as we've got the first look at the grid, guys, what are we thinking about livery? Who are we liking? Who are we not liking?
They all look nice. They all look the same as last year. It's there's a few nice looking cars, but I had a bit of a giggle when they rolled out the shell car and took the covers off, and everyone went, and I was like, okay, what's changed? It's hard to change, I guess. But
see, that's funny because I really like the shell car. I thought that looked different with
looks great.
The white hood.
Looks fantastic. Just doesn't look very different to last year. But big HP logo on the side of it. Yeah, that's it. That's what they need.
My question is, how does the Red Bull one look different?
No, I think they're all pretty similar, unless the sponsors changed. But it's
my personal favourite still has to be the Monster. I think that looks probably one of the most aggressive ones on the track. Lovely little front green LEDs as they're coming up behind it as well. Cam Waters just looked like a mean car driving it on the weekend. If I had to pick a car that looked aggressive, I think it would be his personally. That's what I like for the paint job. The rest of them, like I said, the shell car, the Red Bull Racing, yeah.
You've always liked black cars though, so I knew you'd pick that one.
Wait till I tell you my favourite F1.
Yeah.
Gee, let me guess. But also the green pinstriping on that looks really nice on the back as well, as you're getting all the definition on the fins and behind the car coming up behind it looks really smart. And similar to you talking about
first.
So you're talking about the headlights. I know it hasn't changed a great deal from last year, but the Middies car, I just think that looks really aggressive with the pink headlights coming through.
Pink.
Yep. Yeah, they really stood out. Yeah, I like that. And that's what you want as a sponsor. You want a car.
Well, if I was driving down the street,
it caught on fire on the track too, didn't it?
If I was driving down the street and a car with pink headlights come up behind me, I'd be pulling over just to be careful. That'd scare me off the road.
Nervous?
That or your wife's found out where you're heading down and she's followed you down there, mate.
Or it's Mardi Gras.
Throw some beads out the window and keep driving. Yeah.
So you've heard.
I was wondering who that was.
That took a sharp turn.
But yeah, no, the cars look pretty good. But I like the Monster car as well. That's pretty cool. But the brighter coloured ones, I like Chaz's car. I think that's a good looking livery. The Middies one's good with the headlights. Red Bull's a bit lighter this year. They seem to have had more white on the car. It stands out a bit more to me. But
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Anyway,
not going to lie, look pretty similar to last year's Effort I must answer that question. But
yeah, it's not as if Supercars felt compelled to have a big live livery unveiling event at the MCG or something with announcers and musicians or anything like Formula One. But yeah,
that sounds like a good lead into another podcast we could do.
It could be.
It's a great tie-in. Idea for an episode. Well, they did the reveal. What was it, a couple of weeks ago on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, wasn't it? They drove over the bridge and
driving over
caught up
the bridge.
Yeah, I saw that on the morning news.
Did you?
Lucky that wasn't blocked off by a bunch of cyclists wanting to get a separate bike bridge.
Did you see the clip of a couple of them just before they entered the bridge, coming up a slip lane, getting a nice sideways burnout going on, and leaving some big black marks up the road?
Nice, yeah.
That could have been any hoon in Sydney. There's no proof of that.
I won't name names. I'm sure you could find it if you look on the socials. But
they just thought they were in an industrial estate in Dandenong.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they would have loved to have done it down the Sydney Harbour Bridge, but that was a pretty cool sight, actually. That was good.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. They can come and do it outside my office. So we have guys burning up and down the street every single day.
Yeah, want to be supercar drivers, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're nowhere near so. And talking about rain, so again, creating a segue, Huppy, you were doing the Bathurst 12-hour in iRacing over the weekend. How did you find that in regards to the rain coming in and
to the rain
track?
Well, yeah, so our sim racing team, Fusion Sim Racing, we entered one car in the Bathurst 12-hour event on iRacing, which is a big event, not as big as the Daytona 24-hour on iRacing. That had, I think it was 23,000 drivers around the world competing in that. It was a huge event. I think in the split that we were in was all the Australian drivers, or most of the Australian drivers, and there was maybe around 1,000 teams. So it was a pretty big event. But yeah, we qualified in the top split, qualified 9th, which was really good. But yeah, it was wet, and we did find out that we're not as good as V8 supercar drivers in this one. So we spun out on the wet track, had an incident, took some repairs, had a few other incidents. The main one wasn't our fault. There was a lap one drama where we got punted and put us down a fair bit. So we only ended up finishing 22nd. It was 12 hours of hard slog to finish that one. So we won it in the past, which is good. Not this year, unfortunately, but the next event is the Sebring 12-hour on March 21st, I think. So we'll be starting to prepare for that in the coming weeks and get a car ready and engineer a setup and do some testing.
So there you go. For anyone who's listening and interested in watching, so Fusion Sim Racing, to be able to go and watch the team do Sebring the 12-hour.
Are you going to be joining us, Christian? You've recently sort of joined our team, and you're setting a few blistering laps around the place.
Oh, I guess if you trust
me
to get behind the wheel
for me,
his car burnt down in the pits.
I think it's funny. Chafing is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, it's if you look at my hands just from gripping the steering wheel. But no, as Nathan was talking about the rain, I actually, because you can spectate, but you can also jump on and race as well. So I jumped on, and so it's quite funny because as you're driving along, you've got other cars which are literally driving through you as though you don't even exist. So next thing you're driving there, and all of a sudden you see this car go straight through you. And it's quite disconcerting because you don't see the corner as they're coming through. But when the rain hit, I was coming down Conrod and just watching some of the other cars coming around the chase and just spinning right off. And so I didn't know how to use my windscreen wipers. So all of a sudden my screen is just covered in water.
Covered in water. My whole first stint was the same. I had to manually hold my wiper button down as I was going down the straight. Following cars with spray was difficult.
Isn't it just
W? Christian, with the other cars faster than you?
It should have been Lachlan,
yeah.
But no, it wasn't W. Yeah, good fun.
Yes.
But iRacing and those racing simulations are, getting pretty realistic these days when it comes to weather and car dynamics and setups. And there's a lot of real world racing drivers do these events as well, which is good. So you sometimes compete against supercar drivers and F1 drivers and people like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, but a big challenge to be quick. That's for sure.
Have they got a truck series? I've been doing a bit of time on the Euro Truck Simulator. I might be ready to make the transition.
Yep. I like Euro Truck Simulator. No, unfortunately, they don't race trucks in iRacing. They do NASCAR. The NASCAR trucks, they do, for sure.
I'm pretty sure down the Euro Truck Simulator, you're not supposed to be going that fast. Don't you get some traffic?
They're doing 150
down
in a truck down the German freeways doesn't count as racing, really.
Yeah, you haven't seen Dan driving in that thing. Oh my God. The number of times I've seen him sideways, like rolling down a road.
That only happened once. Or twice.
Anyway, I think V8 supercar drivers show their talent when they drive in the wet on slicks, don't crash, and race bumper to bumper. It's a difficult thing to do for sure.
Yeah. I've got to say, I actually did have the opportunity once to go in one of those racing trucks. So this is many, many years ago, I had the chance to do some video work for Safeway, Woolworths for those kids now listening. But they actually sponsored a truck in the truck racing series. And so we were around Sandown Racecourse, sitting in the passenger seat in this truck, and my God, do they move. Just the feeling of it shaking and vibrating and the speeds that they're doing around that track, it was astounding.
Yeah, that would have to be scary.
I reckon they'd be pretty hairy because they haven't got a low center of gravity.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching, even like the ones where you cab over, you're sitting on top of the front wheels. Like, I don't know how they, like nothing at the back end.
It's definitely a unique experience.
Especially when you're barreling down towards the end of the back straight at Sandown with a tight left-hand corner. You want to make sure that thing breaks because you're going to be going straight through the fence.
Well, it's funny. I was just worried about holding onto the camera. And this is back in the days where it wasn't the little handy cam. It's the big thing that sits on your shoulder.
Haven't you seen, Nathan, Tokyo Truck Drift, where they just, hook it around the corner, just slide it through? It's all fine, mate. It's easy.
Lovely fun. I'm jealous though, Christian. I reckon I've been in a couple of fast cars and race cars in my time, but I think that would be an amazing experience.
It was unique. It was, again, to your point, nothing like sitting in a fast car, because with the center of gravity being so different, and no weight in the back, just phenomenal.
Very cool.
All right. So as we're coming to the end of this episode for the DownShift, just to mention for those listening, we have the Formula One testing, which actually starts on Wednesday. So for Australian Eastern Standard Time, starting at 4:50 p.m. So we're going to be seeing the cars hit the track in Bahrain for the first time. Now, Hubby, you'd shot through a post in regards to Ferrari.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the socials, and there was a bit of scuttlebutt that's come out of publication in Italy, I think, that apparently Lewis Hamilton is claiming that they've got a fast car and wind tunnel correlation looks good, and they reckon they found at least 4/10 over last year's time. So that's a pretty solid gain. 4/10 is a big gain, but we know the other teams will be developing as well and should be quick. But if it's true, initial news is the Ferrari could be a bit of a rocket this year, so I'd be keen to see how they go. The first few days of testing, as we know, there'll be different fuel loads, different run plans, different tyres. They'll turn the engines up and down. You won't be able to make sense of it, but I think on the last day, when they actually dump a bit of fuel out of it, turn the wick up a little bit, do a couple of test semi-quali laps, then we might get a bit more of an idea on what they're all looking like for Melbourne anyway for round one.
So we're able to redo our predictions from last week?
I was just thinking exactly the same thing. That might ruin my constructor championship.
No, they're locked in. They're locked in, especially Christian's. They are 100% locked in, and he cannot change them. We need to see how this finishes up.
You're laughing now.
Yes,
I'll be laughing all year and on the last day.
But Cam Waters has got it in the bag.
Yeah, season over.
Season over.
Cam Waters to win, and if Ferrari look quick, apparently, but we'll see. So, but yeah, like you, Christian, I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on testing. Like I usually sit there with a laptop open and the live timing, and I think Autosport usually do some live timing and some text commentary on what cars are doing, how many laps they've run, that sort of thing. So that can be insightful. So if anyone's bored at home, there's an activity for you to send you to sleep.
Some of us still work for a living and can't start at that particular hour, but that's fine. That's all good.
Actually, I'll be in Perth, so it'll be about 1:50 in the afternoon. So yeah, I'll have to wait till a little bit later on.
Right. Okay. Sure.
All right, excellent team. Well, so that brings to the end of our review of the thrifty Sydney 500. I just have to keep saying it.
Well
I've been
done.
practicing it.
Well done.
You know,
2 in a
Well done.
row. Oh my God,
That
Sydney
week-
record.
That 8 hours practice you did at dinner the other night,
Yep.
it's paid off. Well done.
Yeah. Annoyed the bejesus out of us, but geez, well done.
well, practice makes good. So, all right. So, for our listeners, thank you for spending the time with us for the next episode. This episode has dropped on Tuesday. For the next episode, will be dropping on Thursday, where we'll be talking about the F175, our review of that. So after seeing that last week, what we thought of the liveries, our constructors championship predictions going off, our drivers championship predictions, and then also we'll be doing our 3 bold predictions for 2025 and rating each other's predictions as to how on or off or completely unrealistic they may be. So until
I'm just going to have to quickly change mine based on Nathan's last Ferrari comment, so I'll just adjust mine before we come back. That's fine.
They're locked in, man. They're locked in. We've already we placed the bets. It's done.
You got a lot riding on this, Dan. Go on.
Yeah.
I'll chip in another $1. It's okay. We'll be fine.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, team, and thank you, listeners. Until next time, this has been the Downshift, and thank you for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you later.
That's the checkered flag for this episode of the Downshift. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us in the paddock. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a lap. And hey, if we've earned it, drop us a 5-star review. It really helps us climb the grid and reach more motorsport fans. Want to take it to the next level? Join the Downshift pit crew by supporting us through Patreon. You'll get exclusive content and help fuel the show to keep us pushing flat out every week. Until next time, keep it fast, keep it fun, and we'll catch you on the next lap.